Welcome back everyone, I'm Atenas and this is Mug Bespoke. For today's tutorial we are going to be crocheting a mug, glass, or jar cozy that you can use to spruce up any of your Valentine's Day gifts. So let's get started. So this is what our cozy is going to look like once it is finished, and I just grabbed a glass, so it's just a regular size glass, but it should be able to fit a medium-sized mason jar as well as a mug. So just to get an idea how big this is, let's measure this around. So it's about 11 inches around, which is roughly 27 to 28 centimeters. So it should be able to fit most mugs and travel mugs and everything. So it does stretch a little bit, so you'll have that extra stretch in case you need it, but it is a average size, I'm going to say it's average size cozy. So let's get started here with this. So a couple of things you're going to need as far as your materials list goes is we're going to need medium-sized yarn, and this is just one skein in each color. So here I just got white, and then this is a size 4 medium yarn, and then I got red as my second color. You're going to need a pair of scissors, a yarn or tapestry needle, and a Tunisian crochet hook. So this is a 4mm Tunisian crochet hook. If you have a regular hook that's just the same size all the way around, that should work. Just try to avoid using the aluminum hooks that have the finger hold in the center, or the ergonomic hooks. So that's not going to work either. So a Tunisian hook is ideal for this. You're also going to need the chart. Now the chart is available with the pattern. So there's the pattern and chart combo, and it has the written instructions, and it's a line by line written description, or you can get the chart all by itself as well. So go check that out. That's on the website. I'm going to link it down below. So if you look at the chart, you're going to see these numbers along this side. That is the row number, so it goes straight across. Now the numbers you see along the bottom, those are your stitch numbers. So all of these are stitch numbers. The ones going up are row numbers, and up at the top of the chart, so right up here, you're going to notice another set of numbers. Those are facing the other direction. In case you are left-handed, they'll read from 1 to 16, and then the ones on the bottom also go from 1 to 16, but they go in the opposite direction. So they start here 1 all the way to 16. So keep that in mind as you are working through this chart. Now the center part of this pattern is worked in Tunisian crochet. So stitches 3 to 14 are worked in Tunisian crochet, and then stitches 1 to 15 and 16 are worked using regular crochet. So you can use your Tunisian hook if you want to. That's what I'm going to be doing here in this tutorial, but you can also switch to a regular hook if you want to. So we're going to start this Tunisian part by working stitches 1 through 14. So our work is going to look like this. So it's just the Tunisian part. At the end, we'll add these borders, which are rows 1, 2, or I guess it's stitch 1, 2, 15, and 16. So here is our work a little bit up close. Now, we are going to be working in a Tunisian simple stitch. If you are not familiar with the Tunisian simple stitch, I will link up here at the top of the video. I'm going to link the beginner crochet tutorial, and that's the Tunisian 101, where I explain this stitch really slowly, and it's a very detailed explanation. Since we have a lot to cover in this pattern, I'm not going to go step by step explaining this stitch. So please make sure you know how to crochet a Tunisian simple stitch so that we can crochet this quickly. So now let's move on here to the chart. We are going to start on stitch number 3. We're going to go all the way to stitch number 14. So we're going to begin by making a slip knot, and then you're going to chain 12. So I've already gone through and done this, but slip knot, chain 12, and we are ready to begin our foundation row. So you're going to skip this first stitch, go into the second stitch on your chain, and you're going to cast on. So for the cast on, you just insert your hook into the stitch, yarn over, and pull up a loop, and you're done. This is reviewed a bit more in the Tunisian 101 course. So again, I'm just going to continue to crochet here. Be sure to visit that tutorial if you need a little more help. But once you have cast on, so we got 1 stitch per every stitch of the chain, we're going to work a return pass, and it's just a regular return pass. So yarn over, pull through 1, and then yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and so forth until you have 1 loop left on your hook. So there we go. Here's our foundation row. Now this does not count into our row count. This is just the foundation row. On our chart, we still have to complete the first 2 rows in Tunisian simple stitch, and these are in red, so we haven't introduced a second color yet. So we're just going to begin here on that second stitch from your hook. So it's the second vertical stitch. We're going to skip this first one because we already have it here on the hook. So we're just going to go straight into that second stitch, and we're going to cast on. And you're going to cast on in a Tunisian simple stitch. So you just go through that front loop of the stitch, yarn over, and pull up a loop. So I'll keep working this a little bit slowly just to help you review a bit. But you just yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull up a loop, and it's always behind that the first vertical post. So once you get to the end, what I like to do is I'd like to just insert my hook behind both of these threads. So see, here's a front and a back thread on that very last stitch. That's where I'm going to insert my hook, yarn over, and pull up a loop. And once you've cast on, you're going to work a regular return pass. So yarn over, pull through 1, and then yarn over, pull through 2, until you have just 1 loop left on your hook. And there we go. That was our first row. We have to crochet 1 more row in Tunisian simple stitch in red, and then we'll begin crocheting the hearts. So I'm just going to keep working on this and then do your return pass, and I'll see you here at the beginning of row number 3. So there we go. I have finished the next row and I've completed my return pass, and now we're ready to begin row number 3. And now we're going to introduce a second color. So that's what this whole tutorial is about. It's just practicing working 2 colors so that we can start adding more colors to our Tunisian work. So grab your yarn and look, we're going to be crocheting, 3 stitches in red, and then we're going to do 3 stitches in white, and then the rest of the row we're going to crochet in red. So make sure you have your second color handy, and then begin with 1, 2, 3 in red. Grab your second color, and we're going to crochet the next 3 stitches. So you're going to insert your hook into that first stitch, so it's the first one of the 3, and then you're going to loop your second color. So I'm going to loop the white yarn around my hook, and I'm just going to pull the hook out of the stitch so that I have 1 white loop on my hook. Now we need 2 more, so crochet the next 2 stitches in white so that you have a total of 3. And now the rest of the row we're going to crochet in red. So just pick up your red yarn. So see, you don't cut it or anything, you just drop your yarn. You're going to pull it here towards the front where your hook is at, and then you're just going to cast on the remaining stitches in red. So for this entire project, leave your yarn, don't cut any of it, so that we can work just in continuous stitching. Okay, so once you're through, this is what your work is going to look like. So you have your 3 stitches in white and everything else in red. So make sure you leave a nice long tail end of yarn on that white one, just because it makes it a little easier to pull on it in case your stitch, that first stitch, is a little bit loose, and then you can weave that in at the end and it'll keep your heart from unraveling. So keep that a nice long tail right there. So now let's work on the return pass, and when you're working with multiple colors, your return pass changes. So those white stitches, we're going to crochet those in white thread. So let me get through these first red stitches, and this is just a regular return pass. And once you reach that first white stitch, you're going to notice that it's the second loop on your hook. Your top loop is going to be that first color, which for us it's red. We're going to switch yarn, so we have to switch to the white yarn to crochet these last 3 stitches. So I'm just going to drop the red yarn, so just let it go. We're going to grab the white yarn, so remember not to cut anything. just drop it. Grab your white yarn, and then you're going to yarn over and pull through 2. So yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and then yarn over, pull through 2. And then we get to the first red stitch. So now the red stitch is the one at the bottom, and the white stitch is the one on top of the hook. So see? So the red stitch being at the bottom tells us that we have to now drop the white yarn, pick up the red yarn, and finish the return pass in red. So there we go. So that is our first row with 2 colors. And then when you use that same color, so when we did our return pass in white for the white stitches, it just makes your stitching a lot cleaner. So see, the white stitches really pop. Otherwise, you'd be left with a stripe of red in the middle. So that is a really nice look, but it's not what we're going for in this particular pattern. So we will see it again in the future, and I'll show you what it looks like when you use that same yarn color. But moving on to the next row, we're going to have to crochet 2 stitches in red. So we're going to work 1 and 2. Now we're going to switch to white, and it's going to be 2 stitches in white. So see, I'm just going to grab it right here, and we're going to crochet 1, 2, then we're going to switch to red, and we need 1 stitch in red, go back to white, and that's 2 in white. And now the rest of the row we crochet in red. So notice as I'm working and switching yarn, you're just dropping the color you're not using. So there's no science to it. It's just drop the yarn and keep going. So take a look at our work here. We're going to have to do a couple of color switches. So we have 2 sections in white, and then we have 3 sections in red. So I'll work the first part of the return pass in red, and then once you reach the white stitches, drop the red yarn, pick up your white, and then work those 2 stitches in white. Now drop the white, pick up the red, and work 1 stitch in red, and then switch back to white for 2 stitches, and then switch to red to finish the row. And there we go. So something that we're going to have to start paying close attention to is going to be the tension that you're using to crochet the following stitches, because we're going to be adding more red to the inside of the heart, so we're going to have a lot of space between the white stitches. So you see here there's a few more red stitches, and then there's the white is a little bit more separated. So we need to work with a really loose tension. Otherwise, we're going to start to pull the stitches into themselves. So what we want is just to keep the heart a little bit more open, so we don't want to squeeze it in like this. We want to make sure that we work with really loose tension so that our stitching stays open and we can see the shape that we're trying to crochet. If you're crocheting along and you start to notice that your work is wide on one side and then it gets narrow and then wide and then narrow again, that is going to be a tension problem. So you're going to have to redo those rows and then just loosen up your stitching as you work. So now let's go to this next row, and we're going to need 2 stitches in red, 1 in white, 3 in red, 2 white, and then the remaining in red. So let's work through this together. We've got 2 stitches in red. We're going to do 1 in white. Switch back to red, and we're going to crochet 3. So there's 1, 2, 3. We're going to go back to white. We have 1, 2 in white. The rest of our work is going to be worked in red. So now here on the return pass is where we're going to have to pay close attention to the tension of our stitching. So I'm going to start these first 3 stitches in red, and then we're going to switch to white, and then we go back to red. So it's 1, 2, 3 in red. Now here is where you're going to have to pay close attention. So there's a big space between these white stitches. So when you go to pull your work, make sure you don't pull on your thread too much, or it's going to scrunch up your work like this. So make sure you leave your tension really, really loose. So pull on your yarn to make sure it's nice and loose. You have a nice loose loop in the back of your work, and then you can continue to crochet. So that way your heart design lays flat. So now in this next row, we're going to start with 2 red stitches, and then we're going to move on to 2 white stitches. we're going to make 3 red. So that's 1, 2, and 3. 2 in white. So that's 1, 2, and the rest of the row in red. So 1, and then here we go. And then work a return pass. So switching from red to white for those 2 stitches, and we have the 3 stitches in red, 2 in white. So make sure that that tension is nice and loose. You can also tug on that yarn after you've made that first stitch. And here we go with the last few stitches in red. So just make sure you pull on your work a little bit to make sure that everything is nice and loose as you work along. So now we have to work the center of the heart. So now we have to do 3 stitches in red, and then 2 in white, 3 in red, and then 2 in white. And then that last little stitch right here, we're going to work in red. And then work a return pass. Let me switch again here. Remember to leave a loose tension. All right, and there we go. So that is the center of the heart. So now time to finish up here on the other side. So we're going to work 2 stitches in red, and then 2 in white, and then 3 in red, 2 in white, and then the remaining stitches in red. And then I'm just going to try to go through these next return passes as quickly as I can. So the beauty of this project is that you can complete it really, really quickly. So once you make 1 or 2 of these cozies, you'll remember how to work on this. You'll be able to complete them really quickly. All right, the next row we have 2 in red, 1 in white, 3 in red, 2 in white, and then the remaining stitches of the row we work in red. So I just have to make sure I loosen up that stitch. So even after having crocheted these projects for a while, I still have to go through and make sure all of my stitching is loose. There we go. Oh, you can start to see the heart shape. It's so cute. Okay, for this next one, we have 2 in red, and then 2 in white. And then we go down to 1 in red, 2 in white, and you finish the row in red. There we go. Now we finish our return pass. So even if this isn't exactly a project that you want to hold on to, I do suggest you at least practice it, because we're going to start adding more colors to our Tunisian work, and the next project we're going to work on has 3 colors. So if you get really, really comfortable working with 2 colors, it'll make your life a lot easier for the next tutorial. All right, so for this last row of the heart, we've got 3 stitches in red, and then we have 3 stitches in white. So there we go, 1, 2, 3, and the remaining stitches are in red. So yeah, but next week's project, I was telling you, we're also going to be working with really large spaces in between stitches So it gives this project gives you pretty decent amount of practice as far as working with the tension of your stitching, so for all your return passes, and handling different colors and keeping everything from tangling. So, all right, so here's our heart. We're done with this. Now we have to work, what is it, row number 12 and 13, I believe? So it's 2 rows in red. So I'm going to go ahead and just start working through those, and then we're going to work the heart. So both of these hearts are the same. So it's the same stitches as far as like the size of the heart, only this one's got red on the inside and the other one is just completely white. So we don't have to do all of this red stuff. So that's going to make this next heart a lot easier. So let me just crochet a couple of stitches in here just to show you what's going to happen when you get to the white stitches, because all you're going to do now is crochet an entire row in red. So as you crochet along, you're just going to leave this white thread intact. So I suggest you don't cut it, because the minute you cut that, it's just one more tail end you're going to have to weave in. And you only have to wait for 2 rows before you start using that white yarn again. So that's why I suggest you just drop it. It's out of your way. You don't need to touch it for 2 rows. So just leave it where it is and just continue working in red. So I'll just finish these last 2 rows in red, and I'll see you again here in just a moment. So here's my little heart. It's complete. Now if you wanted to use this little section as a patch, there you go. All you have to do is just a bind off row. So just complete a little bind off row and you have a little patch that you can attach to a Valentine's Day card or a gift for a name tag or something. But we're going to continue working on this. I just wanted to show you the back of the work. So this is what it's going to look like in the back. So it's similar to stranded knit work. You're going to have these loops that just kind of hang out here. If you don't like the way they look, you can sew these down. So just grab a needle and thread and stitch a few times just right here through the back part. Or you can just grab a small piece of fabric and either sew or glue it on right here behind this work, and then you won't see any of that stranded work. So let me show you here what it looks like on that completed cozy. So this is just what it looks like on the inside. Okay, let's get this out of the way. Let's see, there's the little heart we're going to work on now. So once you've completed those 2 rows, we're ready to work on that middle heart, which is just the one that's completely colored in white. So we're going to start the same way that we started in our previous heart, and we're going to crochet 3 stitches in red. And now, see, since we didn't cut the white yarn, we can just pick it up and work 3 stitches in white. The rest of the row we work in red. And I'll work a return pass here really quickly. So I'm going to switch to white for all the white stitches and switch to red. And then for this next row, we're going to start with 2 stitches in red. And then we're going to do 5 stitches in white. So you're going to, yeah, that's 5, yes. You're going to add 1 stitch to the top, just like we did on this one, and then 1 stitch on the bottom. So instead of doing 2 white, 1 red, 2 white, we're just going to work 5 stitches in white. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And now we switch to red. Go, and we're just going to pull through all of this and then yarn over and switch to white and switch to red. There we go. And now we're going to work 2 stitches in red and then 6 stitches in white. So there's 1, I believe it's supposed to be 6 stitches, because we're just going to add 1 to the end. Yeah, so 6 stitches. So that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. There we go. And we'll just complete the rest of the row in red. And then work a return pass. So see, once you get the hang of it, it becomes really, really easy to work in multiple colors. because then you just drop your yarn whenever you need to. So we need to make our heart just a little bit bigger, so we're going to start with 2 stitches in red, and then we're going to work an extra stitch at the bottom of the heart, so way down here, in white. So I believe that should be 7 stitches, but here we'll count them together. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So yes, 7 stitches in white. And complete the row in red. Then work your return pass. Okay, now for this center stitch, so that's the one right in the middle of the heart, we're going to have to pop that one over to the left. So we're going to add one more red stitch. So we're going to begin with 3, and then we're going to shift everything over just a little bit further down, and then we can work our way back up again. So we're going to start with 3 in red, and then we're going to work 7 stitches in white, because all we're doing is just shifting everything over to the left by 1 stitch. So I got one more here, and then I'll finish this stitch here in red, and then just do my return pass. And then the rest of this project is really quite easy, so I'll just show you a little bit more here once we finish, and I'll let you complete this on your own. And then we'll talk about the border and everything here in just a moment. Okay, so there we go. We're at the very center of the heart. So when we go back up on the other row, so this next row, we have to shift everything over back to the right. So you're going to start shifting your stitches one over to the right, and then you're going to start decreasing, or not decreasing, shifting everything on the left. So all of the left side of the heart, you start shifting it over 1 stitch. So we started the row with 2 stitches in red, and then we start with 7 stitches in white, and then we go to red for the remaining stitches of the row. And I'll finish this return pass pretty quickly, or at least I'll try to finish it quickly. I have to pay attention here to my red stitch. Make sure it's nice and loose, but there we go. So we're back on track. So now let me show you here on the chart what we're going to be doing next. So you're just going to continue to stitch 2 stitches in red at the beginning of the row, and then you're going to start removing a stitch on the left. So you're going to start bringing it in 1 until you get here to this side of the heart, where you're going to be left with the 3 stitches, and then you're going to do 2 rows in white, and you're going to repeat that first heart right up here at the top. That's all it is. It's just a repetition of that very first heart. And then you do 2 rows in red, and then we can begin on the border. So complete all of the remaining stitches. I'll see you again when I'm ready to work this border, and then we can finish up this cozy together. So once you have finished everything, so here we go, we've got all 3 hearts, we have to complete what we call a bind off. So you can now cut your white yarn. We're not going to be using it anymore, at least not for this section of the cozy. And then if you look at our stitches here up at the top, you're going to notice that they're really open, so they're quite separate. So we need to close up that space. So we're going to work our bind off, and we're going to work this in a series of single crochets. So you're going to work a single crochet into every one of those stitches. So beginning on that second one, you're just going to insert your hook and pull up a loop. And when you have 2 loops on your hook, you're going to yarn over and pull through both. And that was just a single crochet. So we're going to repeat this in the second stitch. So insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, and then yarn over, pull through 2. Insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. Go, so there are 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So continue to work a single crochet in each of the stitches of this row. then once you get here to the end, don't skip this last stitch. Make sure that you also crochet a single crochet into that very last stitch. And then what I like to do when I finish is I chain 1, and that's going to make a little knot down here. I'm just going to tighten that here, grab my scissors, and I'm going to cut my yarn. And then I'm going to pull my hook out along with the yarn and pull on the yarn to tighten up that little knot. And there you have it. So there's the main body of that cozy. So now we're ready to do the borders. So if you grab your chart, now you're going to see in the instructions that you're going to turn it around. So now these are going to become the rows, and all of these numbers are going to become the stitch numbers. So row number 2 is what we're going to work on next. So we're going to do row number 2 and then row number 1, and then you're going to do the same down here. So you'll do row 15 and then 16. So beginning here on row number 2, we need to switch, to our white yarn. So we're going to begin here on this very first stitch of the row. So we're just going to grab our hook, insert the hook into the stitch, and then we're going to grab a loop here on white yarn, pull that through, and then chain 1. Go, pull that nice and tight, and working into the stitch right next to that, we are going to work a single crochet. So insert your hook into the stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, and then you have 2 loops, so you yarn over and pull through both of those loops. So insert your hook into the stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. So work a single crochet into every single one of the stitches of this row. Once you get to the end, you can just chain 1 and cut your yarn. So I'm going to work, here, let me show you what it looks like. So I'm just going to continue doing this. For those that are more advanced, work another row of white and then do a row of red. So it's going to look like this. So you'll do this at the top part and the bottom. And then once you finish, weave in all of your ends and sew along the short sides of the cozy to close it off. For all of you that need a little bit more help, let's just keep working here. And once you've completed your row of single crochets, see the last row right here is going to look kind of round. So just keep working a single crochet until you get to that little round stitch here at the end. Work one last single crochet, chain 1, and we're going to cut our white yarn. So leave a nice long tail end of yarn that you can weave in later. Let's tighten up this knot. Let's go back to the beginning of the row, and we're going to begin stitching in red. So I'm going to insert my hook into this chain 1. It might be a little bit of a tight knot here, so just be a little patient. And I'm trying to do this really carefully so I don't hit my tripod. But pull up a loop in red yarn. So here, let's go through this slowly. There we go. You're going to drop this little tail end here, chain 1, and then work a single crochet beginning on that second stitch. You're going to work a single crochet into every stitch of the row. So here we go. So that's what that will look like. Repeat this at the bottom part of your cozy so that you have a nice little border on both of them. And then all you do is just sew the sides closed. But that's it. That's all you need to do to complete your cozy. That was our video tutorial for today. I hope you've enjoyed it. And if you have any questions or comments, leave them down in the comment section below. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done so already. I post video tutorials every week. And go check out the website. The link is in the description box below. You'll be able to find the chart for this pattern as well as the full written pattern for this. And you're going to be able to find a lot of information about the stitches that we have worked on so far in our Tunisian crochet course. And check out my Instagram. I have a lot of photos up there for all the projects that I've been working on in the past, everything that we're going to be doing here on the channel in the future, and then just fun projects that I'm working on just on the side. So go check that out. If you've enjoyed this video tutorial, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and share it. And yeah, I'll see you all again next week.